for this episode. I'd like to do a little bit of I know we're way over our time, but if you have more time, do some after hour conversations. I want to talk about your Marine time as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Edgar. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Um, yeah, so being in the Marines, this is after hours now. What
Yep.
is when were you in the Marines? How long were you there for?
So I went in right out of high school, so it was 96 to 01. I um I got in August 18th of 2001 was my EAS. That's when my contract expired, which for anybody who's old enough to remember and does math, that's like 3 weeks before the real world stuff popped off. I actually had something called terminal leave. So if you don't take leave, while you're in, it just adds up, and you can just separate early. So that's effectively what I did. So I ended up leaving the Marine Corps. Actually, it's more like early July, and instead of August. And so after that, I was in San Diego. So I went to Balboa Naval Hospital, and that's where I did my exit exam. And that's where they kind of go through and they tell you, okay, move your elbow, move your shoulders. And they tell you everything that's wrong with you, as if I needed a doctor to tell me that. I ended up after that report came out, they told me I had a service connection, which is, I guess, a nice new PC way of saying a disability, which was weird because I was like, well, I don't feel disabled. I'm the exact same dude I was 3 weeks ago. But anyway, the trouble with that, so I thought that was cool at first because I'm thinking, okay, well, cool, that'll buy me an extra case of beer a month maybe. The problem is when the real world kicked off, I was ineligible to get back in because of that, and that was devastating. Because I had effectively just trained 5 years for a job that I never got to do. And now, a few weeks later, the job's knocking at the door and I can't answer. I went to, I tried to figure out, the next best path for me. And so I became a federal air marshal. October of 2011, I was interviewing in Chicago with the air marshals. And they're like, what'd you do in the Marines? I was like, well, I flew around in the back of a plane with a gun. They're like, all right, you sound good. So that's what I did in the air marshals. I flew around in the back of a plane with a gun. And so I did that for about 5 years. And it was wild. But I kept in touch, obviously, with all my friends. And one of the most devastating hits I took was January 9th in 2002. So I flew on I was what was called a flight mechanic. Basically, I was air crew on a KC-130 refueler. And so anywhere the plane would go, it would have a crew. It had pilot, co-pilot, navigator, load master, flight engineer, and me, the flight mechanic. And my job was to fix things. If we ever landed somewhere and the plane broke, I'd have to, me and the flight engineer would have to figure out how to fix it, which should be alarming to people if you've ever seen me try to put together Legos, that I was ever in charge of fixing an airplane. But I obviously I keep in touch with everybody, and it was a really tight community. And that morning I'm still out in San Diego, as a matter of fact. And that morning we get the news that one of our birds went down. And I'm like, oh my God. And lo and behold, it was the same plane I've flown thousands of hours on. It's the same crew I'd flown thousands of hours with. It was I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it was one of those feelings. So at first there was just insane like denial and regret about how I never get to see these guys again. But then it was also in something I still carry in a much smaller form today. But there was a ton of guilt that it wasn't me. Had I figured out a way to get back in the Marine Corps, could I have taken one of their spots? Could I have made a difference? Could I have maybe seen something that nobody else did? I know that's not true, and I know that you'll drive yourself insane if you try to think about that too much. But back then I didn't have a great spiritual relationship with God. I had, in fact, it was at best on paper, and I was furious with God for taking these men away. Because here's the problem: I was an idiot. I was a drunk idiot. And so all I did was party and chase girls and drink. And I was a normal 21-year-old moron, just run around living life in a way that I thought made sense. And on the other hand, these guys, some of these guys were husbands, they were fathers, they were wonderful men. They participated in charitable events, like all the things that I didn't do. And so I was so mad at God, and I'm thinking, why would you take them and not me? Like, what in the hell are you thinking? And I was so furious, and I battled that for a long time. And to fast forward briefly, I don't carry that with me anymore because I have 4 daughters, and I've seen all the times in my daughters' lives that I was there for, and I realized that was it. That's why I'm here. I'm here to be a dad. And I'm so sorry that those guys can't be dads anymore, and I'm so sorry that it was them. But at this point, I'm glad it wasn't me. And I can't, it took me 10, 15 years to be able to say that. So that was a tough one for me to figure out. But on the bright side, I think there's part of the reason that, and I didn't really get into this too deeply on the actual podcast when we were talking business, but one of the reasons I'm thrilled to be doing something like this is because I've found God in a very real way, and I believe with all my heart that I'm going to see him one day, but also I'm going to see the guys I lost again one day. And so it became very important to me that if and when I get to see them again, that they don't look at me and they're like, what, we gave up our lives for that? What the hell kind of life did you live? What kind of life did you lead that we sacrificed so much for? I want them to like, shake my hand and be like, holy shit, dude, good job. I want them to be like, you rolled the dice every time, you took every chance, you lived to the max. So, I mean, that's kind of what I do, man. Like every time I have an opportunity to say yes to a big, the answer is yes. I go hard all the time. It's because I don't want to let my guys down. I've already let them down once. I'm not going to do it again.
Dude, that's such a meaningful story, such heartfelt reason to do that as well. Part of why I ask, and I have a real close connection with Marines, is my brother was in service, and he was killed in action in 2006. So I understand that. Same reason you're talking about. I love the way you stated that. When you meet them in the afterlife, that you want them to be proud of what you're doing and
right? Why
they risked their lives. So,
yes.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
Yeah, you want them to be psyched for you. You don't like how pissed off would you be, Edgar? Let's say that you saw me in front of a bus and you pushed me out in front of the bus, and then you get nailed by that bus, and then you're up in heaven looking down at me, and I'm eating Cheetos every day, watching The View, watching life go by me. You're like, dude, I would have lived a better life than that. Give me my life back. And that's the thing, is I want those guys to not be like, yo, give me my life back. This guy sucks. Like I don't want them to feel that way about me. And I guarantee you they felt that about me. There were times in my life where I was very stagnant. There were times in my life where, I was still growing up. Even in my 30s, I was still growing up. I mean, it's just, even as a young father, there were times where I failed. And it's just like, so, thank God, though, that those boys made that sacrifice. Thank God those men did what they did, not only because that was their calling and that was their duty, but also now, remember that ripple effect that we talked about? You do one good thing for one person, man, look at what they've done for me. And now look at what I'm able to do for all these other people. It's like, yeah, was it senseless? For sure. Did it suck? Yep. Could I take it back? I would trade places with them in a heartbeat. I still would. With that said, I'm so grateful that I'm here. I'm so grateful for the life that they made possible for me. And so, yeah, it's odd when you really start to think deep about it, how it all works out. You do realize you're that control freak on the airplane, and you have absolutely no control over what happens to you. You're on the ride, and so the only thing you can decide is how you're going to behave when you're on the ride.
Yeah, exactly. There's things that are out of our control. We make decisions, but we are where we are supposed to be. Yeah, I thought the same thing when my brother passed away, when he was killed in an accident. Could I have been there? Could I have protected him?
Yep.
Because I was supposed to go to the Marines, and I decided not to. Just things happened, and I'm grateful for it, and I was proud that he was going. But at the end, I mean, it wasn't my fault. But we can't dwell on that. We have to live our lives and hopefully make him proud by the time we do meet him again.
What was his name?
Benjamin Rosales. He was a corporal. He was actually a LAV mechanic. He
Corporal
took his
Ben. I
ASVAB
love it.
test. Yeah, he took his ASVAB test, and he could have basically had any position he wanted. And he says, "Put me where you need me, boss." And he, go ahead.
Where'd they put him?
He did the LAV. He was in. He did his boot camp, 21 Palms. I think he was in the Raleigh area.
Yep.
I just recently we did a 19-year kind of like anniversary, and I got to hang out with like 3 of his battalion members, mates, and we just talked for hours on end. Had a good conversation about them getting closure because they were still at that war, being overseas in the Middle East. But one of the officers that was promoted. He got his first coin from him. I'll send you the post that I have.
That's awesome.
That I put from him of people just talking about the good person that he was.
God, that's the tough part too. I mean, like that's kind of all you can do is talk. And that's one of the other messed up things is I almost don't like telling people I was in the Marines because like I was a nobody. Like there's all these dudes out there that were pure badass. Like I'm friends with a bunch of them that were pure badass, and it's like embarrassing for me because I mean they were so much better than me. They did so much more real world stuff than me, and so like a lot of times I don't even like necessarily talking about it because then people make assumptions like, oh yeah, well then you must have done some really cool real world stuff. No, I didn't. I was literally I was about as an unknown entity in the Marine Corps as you could be. But one of the things that I do know, having been around, so many of the guys who've lost so much, is just being there to talk to them. Means all the difference in the world. And those guys that were those 3 guys that you went to visit on your brother's anniversary, I guarantee they probably think about them every day. And they always will.
Yeah. That's one thing that we're doing. I'm part of a group trying to provide housing for a lot of veterans. 'Cause a lot of them, when they leave service, they don't have the team that they had before. Being a civilian, they don't have the people that they used to fall back on. And family's there, but family don't understand what they went through when they were in the service, what they went through if they went into action, into battle. So if you're a Marine, you're military service, and you need some housing, some help with that, please reach out. Also, don't forget about 811, which is a service for veterans to call and to get assistance in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, and yeah, it's crazy too how like it. There'll be some days where everything's fine for those guys. I bet. I know for me, what'll happen every once in a while is it'll help me out of nowhere, and I'll just be devastatingly just crushed. And I thought that would go away. And then I was listening to, I love the Jocko podcast because he has these old war heroes on from like World War II, Vietnam. And these guys, they lost people 40, 50, 60 years ago, and it still brings them to tears. So, that's just something that's a hurt that I don't think ever necessarily goes away, which I'm okay with. I think I'm okay with that because I like that it hurts because it meant something to me.
Yeah, it's a reminder to push forward and do the best what you can with what you have, because they don't have that anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, if you're a military person out there and you don't be afraid to be labeled as disabled. Go through the process because you get benefits out there. If you need help with somebody to help you figure out what percentage of the disability you can, I can connect you with. Shout out to Rachel Davis. She's a big advocate for that, because that is such helpful for your life in general, either saving property taxes on your building, your property, so many different things. You served your country, you signed your life away to take whatever orders were given to you for so many years, and after you leave that, if you're not putting yourself in that position, you're giving it away. You're not taking advantage or using the resources that are provided for you. And don't let everybody's sacrifice go to waste for you not being selfish in that portion to take care of yourself when there's a possibility to.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much again for being on the podcast. Thank you for the after hours going overtime.
Of course.
I hope things work out for you, and you're doing great things. Appreciate you giving out. And if you want to look into investing with some other, expand your investments. I don't know what kind of investing you're doing right now in your single family homes.
Yeah, so I have a small portfolio of Airbnbs right here in Florida, Merritt Island. So it's just 3 single family homes, and yeah, I've been thinking about scaling that recently, and probably getting into something different. The problem with the short-term rentals, they make a ton of money, but they're very high touch, a lot of maintenance.
Oh yeah.
And so
I have an Airbnb.
yeah, there you go. So, I've offloaded as much as I can. I use Hostaway as my PMS. So all the messages are automated. I have a VA that handles all the guest interactions. I have a cleaning crew. I have a maintenance crew, but still, I mean, there's times where like I'm the only guy that can go reset the internet, or there's just times that I remember 2 years ago, Thanksgiving morning, I was out there staking out a septic tank. Like, it sucks. So yeah, I was thinking of 1031ing into something more passive. But I don't know if I could live without the returns. That's the tough part. So I don't know. Those short-term returns are really nice. So I don't know. Maybe let's you and I talk about that one day, man. I'd love to get your advice on that, because that is definitely something I'm not smart on, and I'd love to get more intelligent on. Yeah.
Get somebody to help you manage that as well, to take that off your plate and just say, hey, if it costs over $500 to repair, call me for that. Anything else, you guys handle it. That's the biggest thing, setting limits for them. Reading buy back your time. He tells you that, hey, give your maintenance guys a certain a budget that, hey, if they can solve it with that, they don't need to call you for it.
Yep.
And then one thing we're doing with investing is buying properties, single families with 3 bedrooms, 3 baths or more, and then converting them and being able to house veterans to use like HUD-VASH or the SSVF, I think it is, to provide housing for veterans, because a lot of them can't get their own place or don't need a whole big old house. And it helps with the camaraderie of them being with, people that were in service.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool, dude. I never heard of that. That's really awesome.
Yeah. Awesome way to do that. So definitely go, man. Appreciate it. We'll go from there. Take up any more of your time. Catch this next podcast where you can start your dreams and start to own your time the way these other guests have.